Supply chains are fragmenting under pressure, and vehicle mobility is the first indicator of this systemic breakdown. Trade corridors are being redrawn in real time, compressing lead times into narrow risk windows. Energy prices, sanctions, and export controls are rewriting cost structures overnight. Cross-border vehicle mobility is now dictated not only by customs, but by data sovereignty, creating new choke points. The conclusion is clear. Waiting for clarity is the same as being late. Subscribe, drop a like, and tell me in the comments what you are seeing on the ground so you stay a step ahead. Borders may appear open in policy documents, yet in practice they remain constrained by shifting rules and dual-use technology regulations that touch every aspect of automotive logistics, routing, and telematics. Vehicle manufacturers are navigating compliance frameworks that change mid-quarter, while auto parts suppliers face volatile flows as nations hoard critical minerals for battery and semiconductor production. Mobility, once a symbol of convenience, is now an exercise in contingency planning. Global growth no longer moves in unison, but instead fractures into a patchwork of regional economies. Currency swings quickly cascade into procurement shocks, while port congestion rotates unpredictably by geography, and insurance premiums now price in geopolitical instability alongside accident risk. Certainty itself has become more expensive than speed. Trade liberalization has largely stalled, and exceptions dominate. Tariffs have become tactical weapons in disputes unrelated to vehicles, while sanctions reverberate through second and third tier automotive suppliers. Export licenses now gate access to vehicle firmware as tightly as to raw materials, shrinking adaptation time from years into weeks. Climate policy is shifting from goals to enforcement, turning carbon disclosure into an entry ticket for market access. Power grids buckle under electrification demand and extreme heat waves, while transportation subsidies and incentives flip overnight as politics shift and budgets tighten. Industrial policy is displacing market signals, defining outcomes in critical corridors where automakers and parts suppliers once had flexibility. Information warfare now intersects with automotive logistics. Rumors move vehicle prices faster than ships move cars. False safety claims or compliance flags can trigger strategic recalls. Data localization laws fragment cloud-based fleet management, forcing vehicle makers and freight operators into contested information environments. Within this turbulence, truck manufacturing, the backbone of freight mobility, is cracking. Rules of origin are being rewritten, invalidating long-established supplier maps. Tariff escalations hit axles, batteries, and power electronics, while licensing lambda. Licensing disputes over engine control software create choke points. Assembly plants hedge risk with duplicated tooling, absorbing higher unit costs just to keep lines running. The vulnerabilities reach deeper into the supply base. Tier 2 and Tier 3 suppliers control specialized castings, wiring harnesses, and electronic components, meaning a single upstream disruption can idle vehicle production across entire regions. Financial pressure is mounting as banks restrict credit to small suppliers with export exposure, driving consolidation that amplifies systemic fragility. Dependence on embedded software has evolved into strategic dependence, where truck and car ECUs require firmware updates tied to export approvals. Firmware signing keys have become bargaining chips in trade disputes, while aftermarket maintenance is held hostage to diagnostic access rights. White label vehicle parts obscure their true origin, introducing compliance uncertainty into every shipment. Commercial relationships once considered stable are being reopened under force majeure clauses. Freight carriers demand fuel pass-throughs and uptime guarantees, while leasing contracts push maintenance risks back onto fleet operators. Margins migrate toward firms controlling spare parts, calibration data, and update rights. Imports reroute through preferential trade partners, increasing opacity and delays, while quota-driven surges and slumps destabilize production cycles. Gray markets emerge for powertrain modules and battery packs, turning compliance into a permanent shadow across global trade. Every vehicle shipment now carries exposure not only to logistics cost, but also to regulatory and political shock. Vehicles have become rolling sensors as much as physical assets. Cars collect data on driver behavior and infrastructure, heavy machinery records, industrial duty cycles. Motorcycles probe dense urban corridors, and trucks tie it all together into live maps of commerce. Artificial intelligence converts these signals into predictive maintenance, allocating spares before breakdowns occur and flagging unsafe routes. But adversaries exploit the same streams, injecting corrupted data to skew maintenance cycles and disrupt supply flows. Signal integrity is now a security perimeter. Over-the-air updates reach directly into brake controllers and steering systems. Aftermarket devices and unsecured fleet tablets create openings for exploitation, while infotainment stacks leak metadata useful for surveillance. The vehicle ecosystem itself is a contested cyber terrain. The ransomware shift from IT to operational technology amplifies these threats. Workshops lose access to calibration files mid-route, logistics halt when certificates are revoked, and attackers time strikes with quarter-end delivery pushes. Insurers raise deductibles unless segmentation is proven. Governments demand lawful access to vehicle data lakes, while unions and consumers resist continuous surveillance. Data localization mandates splinter fleet analytics, and proprietary walled gardens replace open diagnostic frameworks. Fragmentation becomes systemic. Regional dynamics illustrate diverging approaches. In the United States, resilience outweighs price, with Buy America rules reshaping procurement and public fleet composition. State-level incentives diverge, clouding national automotive strategy, while consumers accept fewer trims if reliability improves. Dealers pivot to service revenue as financing tightens. In Europe, supply chains face deep audits under sustainability rules, with energy security driving more than short-term relief. Congestion taxes and charging corridors reshape buyer expectations, with software support now treated as a right. Across Asia, speed and scale dominate. China embeds vehicles into industrial strategy. Korea and Japan hedge with multiple powertrains. And Southeast Asia positions itself as a relocation hub, while consumers demand baseline connectivity. Cross-regional trust is eroding. Certification reciprocity is challenged. Cyber standards remain contested, and recalls become politicized. Joint ventures increasingly demand data escrow clauses. Public sentiment shifts quickly. Fuel price shocks alter consumer behavior within weeks. Blackouts reset EV charging adoption overnight, and freight delays are attributed to politics rather than weather. Patience for recovery is shorter than supply chain timelines, keeping both governments and automakers under constant strain. Part scarcity is now structural. Connector standards proliferate faster than production capacity adapts. Rare earth processing remains a bottleneck. Shortages of resins and solder paste ripple through ECUs. Fleets cannibalize spares to stretch maintenance cycles, while software updates mask hardware issues but raise cross-border liability. Strategic recalls reshape balance sheets. Class actions emerge under diverging safety laws, and residual values collapse when software support is uncertain. Charging deserts strand electrified trucks, weight-restricted bridges clash with battery mass, and depots, urban and rural alike, lack the infrastructure to maintain electric fleets. Financial pressure escalates as safety stocks trap capital, receivables face insurer pullbacks, and small carriers liquidate routes to survive. Compliance risk is now existential. Misdeclared origin triggers retroactive tariffs. Telematics consent failures invite regulatory penalties. Safety documentation remains inconsistent across platforms. Firms pay premiums for redundant certifications to secure certainty. Short-term survival is triage, rerouting, securing critical ECUs, localizing spares, and pre-clearing customs with digital twins. Medium-term strategy demands modular truck platforms, multi-sourced batteries, escrowed firmware keys, and edge analytics to preserve data sovereignty. Companies must assume rolling outages not only in power grids but also in digital infrastructure. The market is bifurcating. Premium buyers pay for certainty, diagnostics, and uptime. Value segments accept reduced features in exchange for durability. Regional champions emerge where industrial policy guarantees grid priority. Global platforms fragment into semi-compatible families rather than unified models. Resource blocks barter minerals for market access, sanctions weaponize certificate revocation, and cyber treaties harden through crisis-driven negotiations. Neutral corridors monetize compliance itself as a service. Electrification persists but bends under constraint, with hydrogen gaining footholds in heavy-duty corridors and diversified battery chemistries reducing mineral risk. Smart charging aligns with grid stress mandates. Winners will be those who control updates, diagnostics, and uptime. This is no longer a cyclical downturn. It is a structural realignment. Mobility now converges with data sovereignty, energy security, and industrial policy. Cars, trucks, motorcycles, and heavy machinery have become contested nodes in geopolitical networks. The risk is not just cost, but control over keys, updates, and access. Exposure mapping must give way to execution, or the market will impose the adjustment for you. Stay informed, stay ahead. Subscribe now and join the conversation below.